right, and we are back for another night on the podcast. Karl, I'm excited.
I am, man. I had a great weekend.
That's good.
Great games on the NFL. Commanders, Ravens.
That was a great win
battle.
for us. Yeah, I was happy we got that W.
Dallas got crushed.
They did. But
nice. Took a nice bike ride after the game. Had to let off some steam.
Hey.
Felt good. Now I'm paying for it, though. I'm sore.
It just means it's working. My wife and I, my parents watched him this weekend. So we actually had a weekend without Gabe for the first time in 14 months. So that was pretty awesome. We went out to the Shenandoah National Park. Absolutely beautiful.
Love that place.
It was my first time.
How are the Leaf colors? Are they in? Is it prime time?
It may be prime time this week. They were like right on the cusp of reaching their peak. You know, you had a lot of green orange, but not the yellow and the purples yet. But couldn't ask for better weather. Didn't see a single copperhead. It was a great time. You know, I don't like snakes, but yeah, it was a great time. Joshua Evans is in the building. Mech, who is one of our sponsors. Make sure you check him out, especially as you're preparing for the pre-spawn. Those crankbaits are nothing but the truth. Yeah. So that was my weekend. It was pretty good.
Yeah, I love Shenandoah Skyline Drive. I went there one time and seen it at its peak, and I can never hit it. I've never hit it at its peak since. I've been going every year since my last 20, 30 years. I've never seen it at its peak but one time. And I'm telling you, if you ever see it at its peak, it is something magical. It's something you'll never forget.
I believe it. We went ahead and we decided to get I don't know what's called, the International National Park Pass or something like that, where you can go to all of them. So we're looking forward to that. But man, we have two amazing anglers behind the scenes, and I'm itching to bring them on. But I mean, should we bring them on now? Should we address our sponsors? Folks can see who they are. They can read the caption. They can see the show notes.
Yeah, let's roll through our sponsors real quick.
Oh, you're going to make them wait. All right. So we've already addressed our Angler of the Year, Joshua Mech Evans. But who else is supporting the club?
We got Kayak Fishing with Christ.
Yes, indeed.
Original sponsors.
Yeah.
They sponsored the biggest bass of the year. Yeah. I still got to get this out to Nick Mayers. Nick Mayers, shout out to Nick Mayers if you're out there.
21 inches on the Potomac. Who would have guessed the Potomac for big bass?
Hey,
they're in there.
$500. He won it.
One cast. Technically not. I mean, I'm sure he casted more than once that day, but all it took was the right cast.
And we never asked him what he caught it on. I wonder if it was an O-line bait by Justin.
My gut tells me it's very likely.
That's another sponsor, O-line baits.
Yeah.
Justin, we appreciate you, man. Every time we gotta drop you a mention. I love his bait. Yes, they're awesome.
Yeah. The Demon Crawl, Facebook, the Demon Minnow. Minnow. Last but not least, and probably the most relevant sponsor for tonight's conversation is Chris Leslie of Big Bass USA. So, he sponsored our Angler of the Year. $1,000 went out to Josh. He's provided numerous motors and boats to our club this season and seasons prior to now, because both of us have purchased kayaks from Chris at one point in time. So Chris has been a part of the club before. He's been a part of the club. Extremely grateful to Chris for all that he does. And you guys are going to check out one of the anglers who are on the show tonight. He purchased a boat from Chris, and you guys will get to hear about how he rigged that out in tonight's episode.
Can't wait to talk to him.
Looking forward to it. Let's go ahead and bring him on. How about that? With no further ado, two of not only our top anglers, But two of the best guys you'll ever meet.
Consistent.
Charlie Russler, consistent, and Kyle Chrisovergis. I almost said Kyle Welcher. Oh man! But what's up, guys? How are y'all doing tonight?
I'm doing good.
Up? That's what's up.
So since you shouted out sponsors, Big Bass.
I like that hat.
Mac and Old Line.
That's why he's so consistent.
Clearly. I didn't even know Big Bass had merch.
This is just a few. I have the whole bin full of Josh's stuff.
Yeah, I'm jealous. I didn't know Big Bass had merch.
Yeah, I need to call Chris.
What's going on with this?
I do got Josh's stuff.
There you go.
Ooh, that looks good. Yeah, somebody took a screenshot of that just now.
On deck.
Is that what we're doing? I know I have at least one back there. I will find it, but
is my camera like blurry or is it just me? Like what is my I feel like I'm like pixelated unless it's my screen, but can't tell.
Definitely not pixelated. Yeah, no, I think you're right.
What is it doing?
So guys, we're extremely grateful for having you all on the show tonight. It's great to be able to talk to folks who really do this. Just a message from Josh. Charlie, Josh is working on your crankbaits tonight.
Good deal.
Is that a Susquehanna special?
Might be.
Inquiring minds want to know.
I'm noticing a trend. The top anglers keep in touch. There's a community there because Charlie was
common thread, consistency.
Yeah.
I may have sent Josh a picture of a skirt to match.
Ooh. I love it.
If you end up winning this thing, you got to come back on and share.
Will do.
All right, my man. So where do you want to dive first, Evan? Do you want to go into setups or do you want to go into Gilligan's Island?
We have to wait for Gilligan. We have to wait for Gilligan.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, only because of how amazing the story is. I don't think we can top Gilligan's. I mean, I'm grateful that we're going to learn about their setups, but yeah, it's just the rest of the episode will be downhill from there. It's that amazing of a story. You got to wait a little bit for it.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start it off with the first question. This goes to Kyle and Charlie. As we head into 2025, how have each of you customized your kayak setups? Can you walk us through some of the specific gear and tech upgrades you've added and how you think these changes will impact the performance on the water?
We'll start. Charlie, I'll let you go first since you got, I think, your whole boat done. So,
well, I don't think I got it completely done, but the reason I got the one I got is because of the space on it. So I want to maximize that space. And I purchased the 16 by 16 black pack and made that into a battery box. With the battery in it, still got enough room to store some stuff as well. Put the short stack on top of it so I can fit everything I need for a day fishing in there. Plus now I put my the track packs on top of the black pack as well. Got them out of my way up front. Still got to add another switch pad on it to put the transducer on so I can mount my depth finder. But really fishing the Susquehanna, it's not that big of a deal right now, which is what I've been fishing mostly the last month.
So you carry one or two black packs?
One.
Yeah. Okay. And it's just for the battery. You don't keep any lures or anything in there?
I keep most of my tackle in the short stack above it. I do store a little extra stuff in with the battery in the black pack, but most of the stuff I'm going to get into for the day is in the short stack or the track packs.
I noticed also that you have your rods laid back at an angle.
Yeah. Well, I build my own rods, so I'm not too keen on breaking them because it's a lot of work to build them. And I was bumping into a lot of trees on the Juniata earlier this year, so I seen some people doing that, so I made the switch as well.
Now, is that something custom that you made, or was that off the shelf?
It's pretty much off the shelf. I mean, it'll sell it exactly that way. It's 2 double headers, and I put the Omega rod holders on them instead of the paddle holders and stuff. So I can put 3 rods on each one, 3 rod holders. So it's a double header on each side, mounted on top of the Boondocks landing gear tracks.
And how many rods can you hold total?
I've got the 3 on each double header, so 6 there, and then I got 2 rod holders on the black pack, 1 on each side.
So you got 8.
Yep.
Awesome.
Charlie,
I see. Go ahead.
This is live. This just came in. We have a comment from a viewer. Sherry Russler is saying, "Good grief. How much more can you possibly need, dear?"
The possibilities are endless.
Oh man, that's great. That's great. And who is Sherry to you?
That's my wife.
Excellent. Nothing like having a supportive spouse when it comes to our hobby.
Now I see you have the Anchor Wizard installed in the front.
I do.
Can you talk about the significance of having it in the front versus the back of the kayak?
Well, at the front, I feel like you can just pull up and position the kayak how you want it, and then drop the anchor, whether you're facing into the current or into the wind, and then the current or wind is going to keep you positioned correctly. So I like it up front. I see a lot of guys do it both. They have one going to the front, one going to the back. But again, I don't want to take up any more space than I have to. So if I do my job and position properly, front's all I need.
Gotcha. Now, do you stand up a lot when you're fishing?
Not a ton. I do stand up, a fair amount, but not a ton.
And how fast is your boat?
I don't have the depth finder on to give you a GPS speed yet.
Hold on, wait a minute. You're out there kicking butt with no Lowrance or Humminbird or anything?
No, I haven't installed it yet.
Well, you probably don't need it the way you're fishing. You probably just slow you down.
Well, where I've been fishing, I don't think I need it too much.
I got you. And what size battery do you have?
I've got the 3640.
Man, you got to talk to me like I'm a 2-year-old. I don't know what a 3640 is.
It's a 36 volt, and it's the 40 amp hour.
Hold on, wait a minute. You got a 40 amp battery?
The 40 amp hour, yeah.
That's it?
Yeah.
Just 40 amps?
Well, that's all they offer. That's all Newport offers in the 36 volt.
But it's 36 volt though. So as opposed to the 12 volt,
yeah,
you get a bit more power.
Yeah, 30 amp hours or 40 amp hours. That's all they offer in those. I mean, that's just basically your run time during the day.
So you can run that all day on 40 amp hours?
Yep.
Wow, I got 100 amp, and it'll last all day. I mean, depending on, I can probably get about 10 miles out of it, but I never heard of somebody running a 40, man. But I'm not familiar with the 36 volts and how that stuff, the 24 and all that. I don't know how all that works.
I mean, I'm sure there's bigger, but the most common that I've seen for a large 36 volt is like 65 amp hours. So they don't go up to 100 as commonly as the 12 volts and things.
Is it because of size, or you just don't need it?
I have no idea, because I'm about a 2-year-old when it comes to that stuff myself.
Well, you seem to be doing just fine, man. So I wouldn't change anything.
It's just a matter of managing how hard you're running the thing. I just keep mine about around 50%, give or take, a little bit. But if I do that, I can run to a spot 3, 4, 5 miles away, no problem.
Gotcha. Wow, that's incredible.
Foot controlled steering on that, Charlie?
Yes, sir.
Good deal. And is it smooth, or have you had to make any tweaks to it?
It's not as smooth as I would like, but I'm getting more used to it. It's more of an angle of your foot than it actually being smooth or not. If you got the right angle that you're pushing with your foot, smooth as butter. But if you're just off slightly on the angle with that long bar that going inside of the track, it kind of binds up on you a little bit. And I'm getting smoother each trip out.
Wow. And I might be getting ahead in the questions just a little bit, but prior to your, what's the name of your boat again?
It's the Innovative Sportsman Osprey 1436.
Prior to your Osprey, what were you fishing in before? Because you didn't fish that boat all season, right?
No, I was in an Old Town PVL 120.
Okay. And I mean, if you were to compare the two, how much better is the Osprey in your opinion? I'm assuming it's better because you switched.
It's better for me. Like, I'm not going to knock that Old Town. That's a good boat. But for me, the way I like to fish, my style of fishing, I'd rather have more room. You know, that was my biggest thing, is the room. I ran out of room in that Old Town. Just the way it's set up. You know, you only have so much leg room and everything. That Osprey is a blank canvas from front to back. Here's a good story for you. I was fishing the MAKBF TOC last week. I think it was last week. It's all running together. I'm a little tired. Anyway, I was headed up on day one, going up river, and all of a sudden the motor just stops. Of course, my heart sinks because I think my motor just gave out. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And I played with the throttle a little bit, couldn't get nothing out of it. So I turned around and looked and pulled the motor up as much as I could. I wrapped a tent up in the prop.
Oh my goodness.
Now in that Old Town, I wouldn't have been able to get that prop clear without getting in the water. And where I was a little too deep in that temperature to get in. In the Osprey, I stepped over the seat, over the black pack, walked all the way to the back of the kayak, unwrapped it, no problem. Walked back up and got in the seat, kept on rolling.
Oh my goodness.
People don't understand how vital that is. When you get into trouble out there and you gotta go to like one end of your boat, you better have a stable rig. That's all I can tell you, man, because it can get, the pucker factor is up there.
That's for sure. I think you confirmed this, Charlie, but Josh is saying that he was wondering if the battery lasts all day. I think he said yes.
Yeah.
He's switching over to an NK300 as well this winter. He can get the 50 amp hour version.
Yeah, if you can go higher than 40, I definitely would. Like I said, if I manage the percentage I run the motor at, which if I'm running to a spot, I run it usually around 50%. If it depends on how far it is. Like lately, I've been hitting a lot of spots about 3 miles out. So I run it about 50%, which gets me around probably, I know in the Old Town at 50%, I was getting about 5 miles per hour.
At 50%. Wow.
Now, that's the thing. You're not going to gain but maybe 2 miles an hour more at 100. Okay. So you're not really gaining a whole lot, but you're going to burn your battery out and not going to be able to get back.
I can tell you for a fact, the Motor Guide XI3 at full power, 4 miles per hour, just depending on the hull of your boat, maybe 5. Right. But 4 to 3.5 is the average.
Right.
For what it's worth, Kyle and I were coming back together.
7 is crazy.
Yeah, Kyle and I were coming back together at the end of Battle of the Best. I had the 180 Pro. I think my full throttle may not have been 50% for Kyle. And that's with a smaller boat, a lighter boat.
Right.
So that 300 with the 36 ball battery is serious.
Yeah. And the other big thing on that kayak that I love is it drafts less than 3 inches of water. And fishing up on the Susquehanna a lot, you need that, especially right now because that thing's low. I was telling Evan before we went live, I had a fish follow a Chapo on Monday, and I was floating down the middle of the river and fishing a little deeper spot up against the bank. and the middle was probably between 3 and 4 inches deep. And I pulled a fish out of that deeper water on that chopo, and I heard something splashing because I was trying not to hit another rock and fall in like I did at, I don't know, I was fishing something up there. It was the Ike tournament, the Ike Foundation, and I fell in. So I was trying not to do that, and I heard something splash, and I turned around. The fish done followed up to the shallow part. His back was out of the water 3 inches. That's how shallow the boat was floating in, not touching the bottom.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
The thing is you probably have over 100 pounds of gear plus your body weight.
Yeah, I mean, I'm between 210, 215 myself.
Oh, man.
What's the load capacity for the Osprey?
450, I think.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that, but I think that's what it said.
Right. Better than most. That's sweet. Hey, I have a ton more questions, but I do want to hop over to Kyle as well.
Speaking of Old Town.
Right. Did you all fish to the same boat, or did you have different models? What was going on there, Kyle?
So I had the 106. So I had the 10-foot version. He had the 12-foot version. Same exact kayak, just different lengths, but same pedal drive and everything.
Got it. Because I remember they looked very similar. But yeah, throwing the question right back at you, Kyle. Can you tell us what boat you finished the season with, and how you've customized it to your liking for tournament fishing? Now, I'll bring a photo up of it.
So like I said, I started with the Old Town Sportsman, the 106. And I wanted to stay with a pedal drive, but I knew I wanted to go for a bigger kayak, a 12-footer. I'd always wanted a native, and I don't know what it was. I guess maybe like Greg Blanchard or something maybe wanted a native. But even before I bought my Old Town, I looked at natives, but I was so new to this, I didn't even know where I could buy one, minus like online, and I wasn't buying a kayak online and getting it shipped to my house. So I just went with the Old Town, and then didn't think I was going to take, I guess, like the tournament fishing as serious as I did. And then throughout the season, as I started to like really get into it and started to had like good placements and everything, I was like, okay, maybe I want to try to keep doing this. So I told myself, I was like, I want to be able to build like my dream tournament setup. So I'd always wanted the native, so I went with the Titan X 12.5. Messaged Chris at Big Bass and was like, do you have one? He's like, yes. And this was before I even, talked to the lady about if I could buy one, but he told me he had it. So I was like, you know what? This is the time to buy it. So I drove up there. He had it on hold for me, and that's what I went with. I was hesitant when I got there because it is a really big kayak, and I'm not a big person. Like it's heavy. I won't lie. It's really heavy, but I don't regret it one bit. I mean, it's awesome. As far as rigging goes, I haven't done nearly what I want to do to it. Honestly, everything that's like done to it now, I did like 2 weeks before I went out for Battle of the Best. I think I fished in the kayak twice before I went out there. So I just threw everything on, mounted it, is somewhat how I want it. But I definitely, I want to do some changes for sure. I'm actually in the middle of doing custom foot steering, similar to like the Greg Blanchard and Justin who fishes with us. So I'm in the middle of installing that, which is quite tedious.
Well,
how many rods can you carry?
So I have the 13x13, the smallest Black Pack Pro. But I put 3 rod holders on each side, and then I wanted to put 2 more on the back to where I could still open the lid. And I see everyone do extensions and everything, but instead of doing the extensions, I just flipped my rod holders upside down, and they still hold the rod the same way, and the lid still comes up all the way. So I carry 8, and then my kayak has 2 flush mounted, and actually 4 I can run inside the I guess it through the hull of the kayak, but so I could carry a lot, but I carry 8.
And you have a motor on this one, right?
Yes. NK 300. Same motor Charlie's running on his. Honestly, just went with the 300 because I mean it just seemed best for the kayak, and I watched a lot of stuff, and everyone said it fit right. I do like the motor guide too. I like the idea of being able to like spot lock and stuff. Maybe one day I'll just get one of those just to do it. But yeah, I have the 300, but I run the smaller battery. So mine's a 36 volt, 30 amp. His is a 40 amp. But so when we were out there on the adventure we had that we'll talk about, I was moving for a while. I mean, we ran the same distance, and I was moving a little bit faster because I had a smaller battery, and I still, at the end of the day, I think I had like, I don't know, 40% battery or something.
Where do you keep your battery? Is it in the stern or the?
So the Titan X actually has a battery compartment in right behind the seat. So it fits the battery like perfect. It straps right in, and it's like waterproof. And then everything's just all my wirings ran through the kayak.
And what's the weight capacity for the Native?
I think it's something crazy. I think it's like 600, but I could be wrong. It's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, I carry a lot of tackle, but it's I don't think if I ever reach the capacity of that, I either gaining 300 pounds or putting somebody else in the kayak.
Don't do that.
Now, what graphs are you running?
I run a Garmin something GT54 or something. Echo Mat, I think it is. Okay. Honestly, I think there's something wrong with my graphs, so that I might have to actually get a new one because the last 2 times we were out for Battle of the Best, it just kept turning off. It kept saying like transducer disconnected, and I did everything I could to try to fix it, but so I don't know what's going on with that. But
I think we might have some footage of you in your previous kayak, the Old Town. We might have some footage.
It's probably me losing a fish. Yeah. Oh, this was a rough day.
That's on the Potomac, I believe.
Yep.
Hooked into a nice one.
Rookie mistake.
I just lost another one.
Was that a jackhammer?
No, it wasn't.
Man, oh man, that was a nice one too.
Yeah, that was the day I lost my net.
But you did catch it.
Yeah, the next day I did catch my net. Yeah, that was wild. About 5 minutes after my dad told me it'd be 1 in a million chance I catch my net.
Okay.
Should have played the lottery that day.
I know, right? Question for both of you guys. Where do you all keep your catch boards or your hog trough or bump board, whatever you want to call it? But where do you all keep that, and how do you store it on your boats?
So I have the Yak Attack leaderboard. Okay. So I actually just bought the mount that similar to like the Roto Grip, the double like the paddle holder, and it just holds my board right next to where my throttle's mounted. Like in the picture you posted, you could see where my board sits right there. So that orange thing is my board.
Got it. Nice. Pretty easy and convenient to grab. What about you, Charlie?
I just slide mine under my seat.
Okay. Simple enough.
I'm going to throw a random oddball question out there for both of you. If you could each choose just one piece of gear you can't go without in 2025, what would it be and why?
A fishing rod. No, I'm kidding. Probably my motor.
The motor, okay.
Yeah, I've gotten lazy. Even though I have a pedal drive, I've gotten lazy.
What say you, Charlie?
Not sure. Really not sure.
Yeah, I mean it is a hard question, but
Yeah,
if you didn't have this one particular piece of gear on your boat that day, would it mess your day up? I guess look at it from that point of view.
with the kayak I'm in now, the motor definitely.
now if the motor wasn't, if I never had a motor, I mean, one thing I probably wouldn't go without. Probably my graph, but that's only just because of depth. Other than that, I don't really look at my graph, but I definitely think it's good for depth.
Yeah, I would say probably my graph, even though I'm not the best at it, but I like to know what the water temperature is and how deep I am. I'm always constantly checking that.
Yeah. If I couldn't have a motor, I'd take the Old Town.
Yeah. See, I can still pedal with the native, so I'm good regardless.
I'm good either way too. I just gotta switch kayaks.
You can do the old Evan and just paddle everywhere.
Not.
Is the seat considered a part of the kayak?
Well, you don't need that.
Yeah, you definitely don't need that, Evan.
It was not a pleasant experience, fellas. It was.
You look like you were paddleboarding.
Oh my goodness, that was a tough day and a long ride home. But for me, it would be polarized sunglasses. Although a lot of times, you can't necessarily bed fish a lot in the fisheries that we fish on, at least on the Potomac sometimes. But for me, being able to see what my lure looks like in the water and trying to match it for the stain or the color makes a big difference for me. So, yeah,
I've never used them, so I wouldn't. Nope.
Man, you're missing out.
I don't even own sunglasses.
Oh man,
we gotta talk, bud.
Yeah, you're missing
I
out,
always
man.
have to wear. I can't see without my glasses, so I'd have to get like prescription ones, and I've just never done it.
It is worth it.
Well, I'm the same way, but I dropped my prescriptions in the damn Madwoman Creek.
So what do you got? All right, so we will talk after. Maybe you can put me on to. Wait, what? Josh said what now?
Yeah. So I got to order a new pair lately or soon, but I just went and bought the fit over stuff for now to get me by the rest of the season.
Gotcha.
Because they're not cheap when you do the prescription route.
I got another question for both of you guys. Do you have any advice for anglers looking to improve their own setups, particularly for competitive environments, Chesapeake Bay, Upper Bay, I should say, and the Potomac?
I mean, like anything to keep yourself organized in your kayak. I think that's like one thing that's another reason why I went with the native. There's so much room to keep everything conveniently close, but not disorganized. And I hate being disorganized, yet my room looks like a tornado went through it, but on the water.
Yeah, along the same lines, and that's why I went with the kayak I did, is you need what you need, but less is more. So don't go crazy buying everything. Buy what you need to make it efficient. Don't clutter up where you're going to swing a fish in, where you're going to stick the net out to land the fish. Keep it clear.
As one thing.
Question: Do you all have a landing side, like a preferred landing side on your boat? And do you leave your track, like your gear track, open on that side or anything like that? How do y'all do it?
I do. So my old town, I did. This is how I got to where I am at that now. My old town, I had everything on the left side. My graph was on my left, and my net was on my left. So everything was right on that side. But I like to land fish on the left. So now my net's there, but I have so much more room that my net doesn't get in the way, and my graph is in front of me rather than on the side of me. And even if I flip a fish, like I said, everything, there's so much more room. Charlie can probably say the same thing. You can probably flip past anything that's on your kayak.
Yeah.
Whereas the old town, everything was so close. I'd be bumping into my graph trying to like lip a fish.
Yeah. I prefer the left side as well. My paddle is now on the right side. I did switch that up on this kayak because it was on the left on the old town. So there's a little bit of obstruction there with the paddle, but it's not to where I can't land the fish on the right side. I just prefer to keep it on the left side where it's totally clear.
That's interesting. I never thought of that because I think I landed on both sides of the boat. I didn't really think about that. Which side is better? But I got another question for you guys. What piece of gear or equipment, it can be anything, was a game changer for you this year?
For me, it's the kayak itself.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, pretty much me too. I mean, I had only fished a few times the year before in a kayak, so.
I mean, what was the difference between your old kayak and the new one that was such a game changer?
Space.
That's a common theme, space.
And stability. I mean, the old town was really stable, but I can stand on the front of my kayak.
If you all
on the front of it.
If you all weren't tournament fishing, do you think that you would have gone with longer boats?
Nope.
No.
Okay. So is it safe to say that for a tournament angler, the longer the better?
Probably. It's probably preference.
Rough water,
in my opinion, it's probably preference. I mean, I did the beginning of the year in a 10. I think Jesse's in a 10. 10 and a half. They're both 10 and a half, I think. But I think it's all on where you're fishing, depending on what you'd want, I guess. That's why I went bigger, because I wanted to be able to have more confidence fishing different areas of the water that I just didn't think the 10-foot would be good in.
Yeah, typically your rotomobile kayaks, the longer they are, the faster they are as well.
How is navigating though, as far as turning with longer boats? You notice too much of a difference, or not that much of a difference?
With foot steer, there's no turning. I mean, you can turn on a dime.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah, now ask me to turn mine.
Yeah, I can turn it straight. I can just turn it right around. It doesn't even go forward at all. It just turns the back of the kayak around.
That's important.
Yes, it is. Because I don't have that. I will. I'm in the middle of doing it, but trying to turn mine is like turning. It's not possible. It's like turning a cruise ship.
Do you have the standard rudder, or did you get the upgraded boondocks?
On mine?
Or the native?
Standard. But yeah, I won't have to worry about that. I mean, now if my pedal drives down and my motor's out, I can turn almost on a dime. I mean, not as quite as like Charlie can, but I can turn way easier. But as soon as I put my motor down, that's just out of the question.
I will say, speaking for the only guy that has the XI3, it's pinpoint. It'll turn on a dime. It'll back up. It'll whatever you need it to do. I'll use mine with foot steering, but it comes with the remote. But I find myself using the foot steering a lot, especially if I'm sitting down. But if I'm standing up, I'll put it on heading or whatever, just point it and let it go. But it turns on a dime, man. It comes in handy, especially when you get hung up or something and you got to go in and get it. You want precise maneuvering, So I that's critical.
Yeah, I have a 10.5 foot boat with no rudder, and tracking is still challenging with a motor. However, it is far better than not having a motor, because they make that little drop-in rudder. It helps a little bit, but I would not say I have a tournament setup. But it's good for taking photos for guys on the trail.
I will say a rudder is key. I got the rudder kit from New Canoe. It was pricey as hell, but it was worth every penny because it does track very well. It turns on a dime, and that's golden out on the water, especially when it's rough.
All right, we've waited long enough. Karl, can you please ask the question that everyone is looking forward to?
Well, my question is going to be a little bit different because I know we got the phone call, but the people who didn't know, they're wondering what the heck are we talking about? Well, during the last tournament, Battle of the Best, on the first day, our anglers got out there and they had some issues. I got a call. I was eating breakfast with my wife. I got a call that we had an angler that might have been in trouble. He needs some help. And this is a teachable moment for us and also the other anglers too, as to what to do if you get into a similar situation. So that's why we thought it was kind of important to share this story. And I'm excited to know exactly what happened that day. But from what we know, from what Evan and I were told, is that Pete Chrisovergis, Kyle's dad, ran into a little bit of trouble out there on the main channel of the Potomac. And you guys want to take it over from there?
So I guess I'll talk about why we were even. Well, I know why Charlie was on the main river. So earlier in the week, I was talking to Charlie, and I was just like, we were spitting back and forth what he was gonna do, what I was gonna do, and he was thinking of fishing the main river. I was like, I've never done it. I was like, why not? Like, let's go for it. I had pre-fished 2 or 3 days before Battle of the Best on my normal spots. I spent all day. I think I traveled more miles that day than I did on the main river, and I didn't catch anything. So I had no confidence. So I was like, I'm just gonna shoot for it. So all day it was fine. I mean, we launched 5:30 or whatever. It was like glass. Like, we had no problems. So I was thinking, like, this is no big deal. And all day it was fine. We start going toward, this is probably like 11 or so. Would you say, Charlie? We went towards that last spot, maybe 12? Probably like 11.
Yeah, I think it was around 11:30. I finally pulled the plug and said, I'm going to try that other spot.
So he said he was going to the other spot, so I figured, we'll all stick together. So we're heading back, and I'm following him. My dad's behind me, and he veered off to go fish an area, and I just kept going with Charlie. And it started getting a little dicey, and I'm new to this. I'm new to the water. I'm new to kayak fishing. So as soon as it started getting like, whoa, I don't know about this, I was like, hey, Charlie, I'm going to turn around. Well, by the time I started to turn around, it was, winds were whipping, wakes were coming over the front of my kayak, and I was like, oh my God, like, I'm freaking out because, like I said, I've never been in any type of water conditions like that ever. So I called my dad, and I was like, Dad, like, I don't know what to do. I'm trying to use my motor, and every time I went to go use my motor, I just went straight back towards the bank. Come to find out later on, my motor was like kicked sideways. That's why I couldn't use it. So every time I try to get my pedal drive down, I'd be back against the bank, and I didn't want to get caught up on the bank. So I paddled my way back through whatever wind gusts and wakes and whatever. And what would you think that was? Probably a mile or so, Charlie? Probably more?
Yeah, I think when I did it on Google Earth, from the ramp, the spot I was going to was a mile. So you were probably just less than a mile going back.
Paddling was not, it was terrible. But my kayak held up perfect. So that was nice to know that I could be in those conditions and my kayak can handle it. It would have been a breeze if my motor hadn't done what it did. So back to what happened to my dad. So I'm on the phone, and he's like, I'm on the bank. I pulled my kayak up, and as he was coming down, he had no issues. He was just cruising through the water with his motor. And the wake came up and hit his paddle off the kayak. So he tried to turn around and get his paddle so he wouldn't lose it. And that's how he ended up on the bank. But as we all know, you ain't getting off the bank without a paddle. So he was just stuck there with no paddle. So then Charlie came in, and we'll let Charlie say what he had to do to go get it.
Yeah, so
and I ain't gonna cut you off, Charlie, but I just wanted to say, just leading up to this point right here, this is probably one of the most selfless acts of sportsmanship that you will see on the water. And that's why I love the fishing community, because it doesn't matter if it's a big tournament, little tournament, what's at stake. If somebody's in trouble, we will stop and help each other out. That's the most important thing. So go ahead, Charlie. Take it on.
All right. So I'm going to back up and start from the very beginning. And I'm talking months before this. So this is my first year kayak fishing. You guys know that. I showed up for the first tournament for MAKBF. And I showed up at the Slavens ramp back in Mattawoman. And I think I got there at 1:30 or 2 o'clock because I don't live real close. I just wanted to make sure that I was there. And there were 2 trucks sitting in the parking lot already there. And that was Kyle and his dad, Pete. So for the next, 3 hours?
Yeah.
We just sat there and shot the shit for 3 hours.
Yeah.
So we've been kind of tight ever since because they was the first people I met kayak fishing. In fact, me and Pete went and practiced like a week or 2 before the Battle of the Best. And I think it was both our first times out fishing in the new kayaks, actually. So anyway, fast forward to that day. I didn't think I was on enough to be in the hunt. So I decided to fish the main river. We and Kyle talked, and they decided to follow me, go out there with me. So I apologize, Kyle. I steered you in the wrong direction.
Nah, where we were, it looked like it was money, but
there were fish there. They just weren't biting.
Yeah.
So anyway, so Kyle, like he said, we was going up the bank, and it just all turned all of a sudden. I guess we had just got back past the ramp we had launched at, and maybe a quarter mile past the ramp, it just started blowing and the waves picked up. It never worried me because I had the foot steer. And that's where Kyle and Pete had their problems, was they couldn't control the kayak. They couldn't steer it. And the waves and the wind just pushed them up against the bank. So anyway, Kyle said, I think I'm going to turn around. It's like, dude, we're almost there at this point. I mean, we had another couple hundred yards. And he was like, okay. So I turned around, and he's going my direction. So I went on and went. Well, the next time I looked back, I couldn't see Kyle. He was gone. So I guess that's when he had turned around and headed back. I fished for probably, half hour maybe?
Yeah.
Caught 1 short fish. Got myself stuck back in behind a bunch of weeds and stuff. I played hell getting out of that. It took me a while to get out of that. Finally got out. I actually had to push pole with the paddle to get out of it. And so I'm just going to head back to the ramp because that spot wasn't panning out and there wasn't much close with the way that wind was blowing. I was headed back to the ramp, make sure they was okay. And as I'm going down the bank, I can see Kyle on the dock at the ramp. His kayak sitting on the ramp. So I didn't think anything of it. I thought he had probably just gotten there and was getting ready to load up. And as I pull up, he said, Dad's stuck down on the bank. I said, how far is he? He said, 200 yards. I mean, he was probably 300, 400, 500 yards. He wasn't right there, but he wasn't that far either. So I said, well, what's going on? He said, I think they called the Coast Guard. And then he said, well, now they're saying that the Coast Guard said you have to call the police or call 911. I was like, have they called 911 yet? He said, I don't know. Let me find out. I said, well, if they haven't called 911, because I'm not going to go out there if they're coming. There's no reason for that. But if they're not on their way yet, let's save them a trip. I'll just go get him. It's not that big of a deal. It's only a couple hundred yards, 500 yards, whatever it is. It's not far, right? And in the meantime, Karl called me on Messenger. And he said, don't go get him. I said, Karl, he's not that far away. I'm fine. I'll go get him. And Karl was like, I'm telling you not to go. If you go, that's fine, but I'm telling you not to. I said, okay, no problem. I said, I can go get him. He's not that far away. We'll have no problems. So I went on down and just run my kayak up on the bank, put him in his, tried to look for his paddle. I couldn't find it. Put him in his kayak, and I just waited him out far enough to get him in there and Kyle gave me his paddle to take to him. So I waited him out far enough he wouldn't get blown back up on the bank, and he paddled out far enough that he could control it. It wasn't like it was dangerous as far as they were ever in a dangerous situation. I mean, it was sketchy. The water was sketchy. The wind was sketchy. The waves were sketchy. But they were never I wouldn't say they was ever really in danger. Not, at least I didn't think so. But it was just a matter of they couldn't control the kayaks without that foot steering. When you're trying to steer that motor with a rudder, it just does not steer. That's how I had my Old Town set up. And it was a nightmare. That foot steering is amazing. Anyway, I really don't look at it as a crazy act of sportsmanship. I mean, it's just what you do. If you can help somebody, you help somebody. Now, in that same situation, if you don't have the experience to do it, don't put 2 people in the same situation. Don't get yourself out there. Wait for the authorities to get there. But in that situation, I was comfortable. I've been in rough water before, not necessarily in a kayak, but I've been in plenty of rough water situations, and I was comfortable in the kayak to go get him. So I don't think I did anything special, but you just here help people when they need help if you can help them.
I think that's awesome. I think that's awesome, man. And thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Because, any tournament that you go into, at least for me, and this goes back to the teachable moment. When I'm in a bass boat tournament, one of the things that the tournament director will say is, like, if you get into trouble out there on the water, your first phone call should not be to me. It should be 911, and then you call me. So that's the priority I was looking at when I got the call, and I didn't know the full situation because I was getting bits and pieces of information. I didn't really know the full picture.
Right, and I understand that. Yeah, I mean, it was more mechanical than it was weather related. You know what I mean? Without being totally, it was more mechanical. It was just a matter of he couldn't control the kayak because of the way it was set up to handle that kind of water. It wasn't the water was going to hurt him.
That's what made me make the call, is because he was perfectly fine. I mean, he had pulled himself off onto the bank himself. Like, it's not like he came out of his kayak. He did it. But I couldn't. If I would have got to him, I could have gotten to him. But I would have been stuck in the same situation he was because I couldn't get back off. I mean, I probably could have because I had a paddle, but he wouldn't have had a paddle. So that was where it came in. The reason why I called you guys was because, I mean, I didn't know what to do. I've never been in a situation where somebody was on the water. They were fine, but unless it calmed down enough for him to push himself out or get his drive down, I mean, he was just kind of stuck there. It wasn't necessarily, like he said, he wasn't unsafe or in any danger, but he was just kind of stuck in a spot where he had no way out, really.
Yeah, my heart skipped a beat. I mean, I really, I was worried. And then, Evan was all on it, man. I mean, he was calling everybody. We called, I think, all the anglers out there on the water because I was down in Annapolis when I got the phone call. And I'm looking, we're eating outside for breakfast, some spot in Annapolis, and I'm looking at the trees and I'm saying, this wind is really blowing out. I wonder if it's blowing on the Potomac.
It just came out of nowhere.
10 minutes later, I got that phone call.
I mean, once he got my dad back out, I mean, my dad came down through it perfectly fine because once you were straight, you were good. The problem is I could never get straight because my motor was kicked sideways. So even when I did straighten back up, I could use my motor for about 25, 30 seconds, and I was right back to the bank because it was kicked towards the side of the bank. Whereas if I could have just put myself straight, I wouldn't have even touched the rudder. I'd have just went straight back. But I couldn't. So that was where I was stuck.
So your motor was stuck turn?
Yes. I guess when I initially got kicked into the bank, I guess it hit something when I was pushed up against it when I first, because like he said, when you don't have foot steering, it took me probably 20 minutes to turn the kayak around against the wind. But, it was just pushing me further and further towards the bank. And then finally I was turned around, but then I had to make my way back out. So I guess when it was backwards up towards the bank, I guess it hit and turned sideways. And I didn't know because it's in the water. I couldn't see it. And I didn't have any time to pull it up and look at it because then I'd have just been right back in at square one. So, yeah, foot steering, I would say, I mean, I'm not going to lie. If you put a motor in your kayak, before you even take it out, I would put foot steering on it. That is like a lesson I've learned. I just didn't have time to put foot steering on mine before Battle of the Best. I had just hooked my motor up on it like a week before. So
how do you steer? Is it hand steer?
Yep. And when the motor's down, the rudder will turn, but it's not strong enough to really do anything, especially against wind. You're really just kind of. I'd have probably been better off if I could have just gotten my drive down and pulled the motor up, but I just didn't have time to do any of that, or I was back on, in the trees. This is another funny thing. So in the middle of all that going on, I got pushed into some trees and all my rods, because I keep mine vertical, not how he has his. Two of them got caught up, so I just went like that and snapped the line on them. Well, I didn't pay attention to where the line went on one of the rods I pulled the line off on. So as I'm going back and I'm using my motor to get out of where I was at initially, I hear this drag pulling. I turned around, I pulled all the line out of my spinning reel and wrapped it all around the impeller of my motor. So that took me 2 hours to get out when I got home that day. So if anyone needs to take an NK300 motor apart, let me know. Because I figured out how to do all that. I mean, it was stuffed all the way in through it was a full spool, so it almost despooled. I didn't even realize it was happening. So, yeah, lessons learned. You snap your line, just pay attention.
I'm glad you guys are all right. I'm glad Charlie was out there with you. Now, I hear stories that Charlie was riding waves. He was basically out there surfing. Like, you can only see, like, the top of his head, and then, the wave would go back up.
It looked like
something.
a magic carpet. He was literally, like, floating across the top of the water.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, he was soaked. It looked like he went through a monsoon because it's so low to the water, but he was fine.
Yeah, that's the one. If there's any negatives to that Osprey, that's one. It's not made for rough water. It's low to the water, and I think every wave I went through, not over. Well, I told Kyle when I got back, I said, did it look like I was just sitting on a chair, just going across the top of the water in a chair? There wasn't nothing underneath of me. He said, yeah, pretty much.
Man.
I mean, the wakes coming over the front were so bad. It took your track packs right off the mounts, didn't it?
Oh, yeah. I was holding them with my hand.
Get out of here, man. That's crazy.
I still think this is the greatest innovative sportsman commercial. If it was filmed.
I wish I'd have got a video of that. That would have been pretty sick.
Yeah, shout out to Trey Leach. Your stuff works, man.
Yeah. I think the lesson.
Dire conditions.
Yeah.
It excels.
The lesson that I took from this was that we need to have a protocol for emergent situations. Although this wasn't emergent per se, but I right? I didn't know that when you call Coast Guard, they tell you to call 911 first and then they'll determine if Coast Guard is necessary. Who would have thought? I'm thinking this is water related,
Yep.
Like call the people who are on the water. But that's something that I definitely think we need to polish up by next season, especially when the water's cold. Fortunately, it wasn't cold water this time.
Yeah, and this is one of the reasons why you have to wear your PFD at all times.
Yeah.
Safety first. This is one of the reasons why I don't want to say I preach, but I recommend tethering all your gear to your kayak. Including your paddle. It's a pain in the ass if you don't have the right leash for it, but it's hard to paddle back home without one. So that's just little things like that. If you flip, you got to think like, what am I going to do if I actually go for a swim? Like, what am I going to lose here? And try to tether as much down as you can.
Speaking of tethering things, this is irrelevant to what we're talking about, but my dad in the last month has lost 2 phones when on the water. So tether your phone, please. He was before the Battle of the Best. We were pre-fishing, and I don't know what happened. He hit his track pack off, fell in the water, phone lost. He lost his keys. I had to drive him all the way back to get his key. Anyways, well, 2 weeks ago he was fishing Depot, which Evan knows, and it was raining, and he caught a 5.5 pounder. So he was taking a picture of the fish, and the fish kicked and hit his phone out of his hand. And I had a brand new phone, an extra one, and I gave it to him, and he lost that one. So tether your phones, please.
I got something. Just keep going. I got it.
Yeah. I love the rogue fishing companies.
I mean, I don't use one. But after him, I'm like, maybe I should get one because you're like on a roll for losing phones.
I love those Rogue Fishing Co. Tethers for phones. They go right around the corners of your phone.
Yeah,
it's not waterproof.
I'm definitely getting one.
I've never lost a phone using that.
This is my PFD, right? I keep my phone right here in this pocket, and there's a case that floats. It's waterproof. That he can put his phone in, or anyone can put their phone in. I always fish with mine in this case. It's a pain in the butt because it gets wet and everything, but it still works good with your phone and everything. So
he ain't allowed back on the water till he gets
money. And I keep it leashed to my jacket because, I mean, to keep it a buck, your phone is probably your most important gear. You can't upload any fish if your phone is sitting at the bottom of the lake, and you can't call for help. So this right here, you might want to invest in one of these too. FYI.
Yeah, that's how I had mine originally when I first started. And I just had a cheap Walmart tether. But the Ike Foundation prize package that I got had that new Yak Attack phone holder.
How do you like that?
I love it.
Because that's the one I
So
was
much
thinking
easier. I
about
don't have to unzip anything. It's sitting right beside me. You know, it's nice. I really like it. It's expensive.
I'll check it out.
I really
haven't
like it.
seen it.
Is that the one that has the mount, or is it just the tether?
It has, it's the whole thing. I'll go get it. Just give me a second.
All right. But yeah, so I would say I think that this situation worked out as well as it could, in spite of all the conditions. So that's pretty awesome. But man, you guys fished a different location day 2. And I think it was just tough fishing that whole weekend. But
I made a bad call again on day 2. I should have just went. Well, honestly, I would have went the same place Charlie did. But I went and tried to fish other stuff, thinking I could find something, and then the spot where he caught his fish, I ended up at, and that's where I caught my. I actually caught 3 on day 2, but only 1 was a keeper. But hey, you live and you learn. Still a good time. See, that's
pretty neat.
I like that.
And then it's got the.
What am I looking at here?
So your phone mounts to it. It's like your car one, like one you put in your car.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's adjustable too. So it'll adjust. You have to pull it out and twist it, and it'll tighten up or get bigger.
I'm not gonna lie. I would probably use that for taking selfies with the fish.
Yeah,
to be honest,
you got to put your phone in there and show me how that works.
He's like, I'm on my phone.
Yeah, right. My phone for the podcast.
Go get Sherry's phone.
Speaking of Sherry says that Charlie swims like a fish and has no fear of water, unlike her. I guess there's a video that you could show us one day, Charlie.
No, well, no, I don't think all that footage is gone. When I would take her on the boat, she would scream if I went over idle speed.
Idle speed?
Yeah, pretty much.
Anything over 6 miles an hour.
Pretty much.
No go.
Yep.
Well, listen, guys, I'm grateful that everything worked out the way that it did. We definitely learned a lot. Since then, I think it's made all of us better anglers and more aware of what to do. And I'm grateful for you guys coming on the call. But before we end the call, right, like, I'm curious. When you look at 2025, what would you say were the best decisions that you made that allowed you to have the success that you all had? Because you two are like 2 of the most consistent anglers on the trail. So what happened that allowed you all to be so consistent? Were you out there practicing every week? Was it a mindset thing?
So I'll go first because mine's pretty short. I mean, to be completely honest, I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I only ever fished Upper Bay one time before I tournament fished this year. Probably the Potomac, only Mattawoman Creek, when I say the Potomac, maybe 5 or 6 times. And I fished the same spot every single time I went. So to answer your question, I don't know. I've only been bass fishing for a few years, and most of that was the pond by my house. So I just watch a lot, and every time I catch a fish, I just try to learn and remember what they liked or how it happened, and that's just pretty much what I put into every single time I'm on the water. But other than that, it was just a fish until and hope it works out. I mean,
Okay.
Translation: he's coming for everybody in 2025.
I've learned a lot.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I had a couple practice days early. I guess leading up to that MAKBF one. That was before I got in with you guys, and I actually found a little something the day before and kind of wrote that out for a couple months there. When I started fishing with you guys, fished the same spot, and then when I knew that spot would be grassed up too much, I just headed out and found a new spot.
Okay.
On the bay, the spot where I won that tournament with you guys, I fished that spot in the MAKBF tournament. It's the first time I ever fished that spot. I fished near there, but I liked how it looked then. It had changed some by when we fished, and I won that tournament with you guys. It had changed some, but I just went and fished that. I tried some other stuff, couldn't find anything else, so I just went back there and stuck with that all day.
All right. There are a lot of gems in this episode for those who watch it who are interested in tournament angling, determining what boat to get, how to rig it. I think both of you all use, you call them track packs? Is that what they are? I don't
The little ones?
Yeah.
Yeah, track pack.
Track packs. Okay.
They're like Charlie said the same thing. They're a hit or miss. I mean, I like mine and I like putting some stuff in it, but you just have to watch where it's at and what you put in it, because I've confirmed, I think, Charlie, what you had said. It's heat. It's definitely heat related.
Yeah.
When those things get warm, the lids, they just don't have a very good latch. I mean, hopefully Yakatac's not watching this, or I'll never get sponsored. But
yeah.
no, yeah. I mean, I love all their stuff, but that thing definitely has a poor latch.
Yeah. That. Let me say this, and I don't like to call out people and stuff, but I'm gonna call them out on this because they make some awesome stuff. I mean, they make some fantastic products.
Yeah.
Like, dude, they missed so far in left field on this sucker. It's unreal. The latches on both, the way it latches to the mount on the track, and the way that the lid latches. Like the first time out, I opened up the bottom one. The top one was like.
It sounds like they should have hired Charlie for R&D.
Definitely. Yeah, quality control. Yeah, we're waiting on Charlie to get back. Kyle, can you hear us?
Yakatac cut his cable off, man. They got him.
Yakatac cut his cable off.
All right, Charlie,
be careful, man.
I wish I had mine in here, but I don't. I have everything else Yakatac.
Speaking of sponsors, do you guys have any sponsors that you want to give a shout out to before we sign off?
I wish. That's my goal for 2025. Is to get one sponsor. I don't know if it'll happen, but that's my goal. Winning a tournament.
My only sponsor keeps putting messages in the chat.
I was going to say your sponsor could be your wife. It could be your mom.
Yeah.
It could be anybody. Anybody you want to give a shout out to before we sign off?
You guys for starting it up.
Oh man, thank you.
And we give shout out to Mac again, because I mean all his crankbaits are sitting here, but
for sure.
Yeah, definitely you guys, all the sponsors.
Yep.
Yeah, you guys are. It's your first year, and you guys are doing good.
Here, maybe you guys will get this one. Is this confirmed yet? Did we confirm that iRod's on that or what?
iRod, they're coming.
That's a fresh iRod? Is that a Metania?
No, it's an Antares.
Okay.
But yeah.
Get it straight. Get it straight.
Yeah, get it straight. Learn your reels.
I know. I use the same reel on all of my rods. Just a Corrado. But I need to step it up. All right. I know we said we're about to go. but I think this is something we want to start in the future. 3 takeaways for the person that's watching. If you could give them just 3 tips, if we just send them this part of the video, what would be your 3 tips for each of you for rigging out a tournament kayak?
Just the kayak or tournament fishing in general?
Let's go tournament fishing in general.
I mean, to have fun. I've learned that if you go out there and beat yourself up, you're not fishing. You're just beating yourself up all day. If you get into tournament fishing, don't focus on first place or last place. Just fish. That'd be my main takeaway. Okay. Be safe. If you're gonna get into it, be safe. And don't be afraid to talk to people, especially the people in your group. Probably 3 takeaways.
Sweet.
Awesome advice.
Yeah. How about you, Charlie?
Kind of along the same lines there. You're going to get your teeth kicked in way more than you win. Be hard on yourself, but not too hard on yourself because you're going to lose way more than you win. Treat everybody with respect. Be good to people, and they'll be good to you. And if you want to fish kayak tournaments, check out Chesapeake Reel Masters.
I like that.
There it is.
Oh, and can I give a shout out to one thing?
Of course.
Hey guys, get on Tourney X and sign up for the native Big Bass Power Hour.
Oh, yeah.
I have off the next 3 days. I should just go for it.
Why not?
Come on.
I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. I ain't never fished it. My foot steering is not done either. I mean, it's done enough, but
yeah,
hey,
definitely get your foot steering in there.
Give me a shout tomorrow. I'll tell you some places to go fish and try to catch some fish. And Saturday, meet me at the ramp and we'll go.
I'm gonna think about it now. I have off. I might be able to make it happen.
All right, I'm gonna give you guys 30 seconds each, and this is the last question before we end the show because Evan's gonna kill me. What was your welcome to kayak fishing moment in your career? It could be a day where it all went wrong. What was your welcome to kayak fishing moment? It could be something somebody did nice for you.
All right, I got mine. The first tournament, coming off the water early and not realizing that 3rd place even mattered.
Oh, classic.
I'm on the ramp, and then I looked at my dad, and I'm like, I think I got 3rd. I'm like, I think I get something for 3rd. I don't know how I didn't think of that. I've raced motocross my whole life, but there's my 30-second welcome to kayak fishing.
Awesome.
Yeah, my first kayak tournament was the MAKBF on the Potomac. I met Kyle and Pete, finished 2nd that day. Met some other guys too. I met Frank Reed there. Heck, me and him been going up to Susquehanna together for almost all these tournaments, over the last month. We roomed together for the Bassmaster one and all the others.
Sweet.
That's awesome, man. The connections you make, the networking is awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we thank you guys for coming on tonight. Evan's going to wrap us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you all. There's a lot of goodies in this episode, from rigging out your boat to, determining the desired length of your boat or where you want to place things and what type of boat you want to go with. I mean, we have 2. I mean, Charlie doesn't have pedals. Kyle has pedals, but they have the same motor. And, so there's some similarities, but there are also distinct differences. I think what I've learned tonight is that you really have to understand the type of angler that you are, what your strengths are, and how to complement them. Because clearly both of you all learned with your Old Town boats what you liked and what you desired to have more of, and then you made a decision that led you all in 2 different directions, but both complemented the way that you all fish. And clearly it works because, you all are in the top 5 for the club. So, I feel as though I learned more from just, being around you all and having access to the knowledge that you all have to share. So I'm grateful for having y'all on tonight.
Yeah,
So,
you had a very good point there. My answer is not your answer.
Yep.
You got to figure out what works for you and go that route. Don't try to duplicate what somebody else does.
That's a fact. And I think that makes you a better angler too. Because if I try to mimic what you do, Charlie, I know I don't know how to throw a swim jig like you. You know, I don't even know how you're working that chopper. You know, because I don't have 3 to 5 pound class fish waking out of water like you do. That just doesn't happen for me.
Right.
You're a different type of guy.
Yeah.
But
It's a different type of water.
That's true. That's true. But again, guys, we're signing off. Thank you all so much for spending the last hour and 16 minutes with us. We truly appreciate it. Tight lines. If you're on the Susky, be safe. I wish that you guys, finish 1 and 2. So
I'll just take one big fish power hour. Shit.
Hey, that's true. What are they paying out for each hour, Charlie?
If we get 100 boats, it's $1,000 an hour, and $1,000 for.
You guys are what, at 60?
What's that?
You're at 60 right now, I think.
Yeah, 65, somewhere around 65. I think last I looked.
It's getting close.
Yeah, if 75, it's $750 an hour, I think.
Okay.
So,
Isn't it 100? The winner gets the same kayak I just bought.
Yeah, I think the winner. I think it's the winner of the biggest fish of the day and the winner of the limit. Well, there's no limit. Every fish over 14 counts. So whoever wins that tournament too for all day also gets one, I think. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's what I saw.
Gotcha.
So
don't forget to like us on YouTube and Facebook. Subscribe to our channel.
Yeah, we're 2 away from 30, aren't we?
I think so. And listen, guys, and if that's too much, just turn on the notifications. All right, that way you can at least tune in with us and see what we're up to, and then maybe one day, just one day, you'll click the subscribe button.
Check out our store online.
That's true. My son has my club hat, and only he knows where it is right now. So yeah. Anywho, all right, guys. See y'all later.
Yep. See you.
See you. Thanks.